All right, welcome back. We all know the stories. Politicians having problems with monogamy. Senator Ensign, Governor Sanford. We've got a whole string of. We know the stories. Okay. We also have a variety of statistics, life expectancies, and all the rest of it. Contessa, you have something for us here before we get into this?
Yeah. Well, okay. So Senator Ensign and Governor Sanford have not been able to escape the spotlight because they admitted that they ran around on their wives. Senator Ensign acknowledged that there were some payments linked to the affair with a campaign staffer. His parents gave his mistress's family $96,000 reportedly. Ensign says the payments were out of concern for their well-being during a difficult time. The Washington Ethics Group has asked the Justice Department to investigate the allegation that Ensign paid a former lover severance money that wasn't actually reported.
Was it government money?
Yeah, no, the severance payment would have been taxpayer dollars, yeah. New polls show that South Carolina residents are ready for Governor Sanford to resign. Recent survey by USA Today found that 60% thought that the governor should step down. Of course, he's been asked by his Republican colleagues to shape up. They didn't say or ship out, but they did ask him to shape up.
It was implied?
Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple of things, because we got into this yesterday. We really started with the McNair conversation and basically how Steve McNair's mistress was upset that there was another mistress. And you were making the point that there's a possessiveness that was inappropriately possessive.
All I was trying to say is that the mistress, in far more situations than people realize, believe everybody else to be the mistress.
Right.
That's all I was trying to say.
And the bigger issue, which we were getting into, and Jeff Gardier's back. Nice to see you. Welcome. Also joining the conversation, Sandra Singh Low, out of Burbank, author of Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, about, again, whether marriage is obsolete. She just ended a 20-year marriage herself, citing things like life expectancies. There's all these things. Sandra, I'm actually going to start with you because you have done the most work writing about it and have lived through it. What do you point to when you talk about the potential obsolescence of this institution?
Well, I think you were starting to say it, that marriage is a fairly modern institution the way we have it now. Our life expectancy was 47. Now it's 77. These partnerships go on for decades. It's, about property ownership and home ownership. I think in Sanford's case, you look at this 20-year relationship. His wife was a successful business executive. She stopped that to be his campaign manager. They have 4 children. It's very much a very successful corporation. For me, when I look at, and we've all seen those emails, my goodness, where it's we have this idea that, the romantic spark should still be alive 20 years in, whereas evolutionary biology says it's probably going to be gone within 4 years. That's the time that it takes to get toddlers up and out. So we keep this idea of the 50s nuclear family going, but it's not really backed up by any evidence in any particular way. It's a sad thing when marriages break up, but we still kind of in America have this optimistic hope that we can have children, have property, everybody works full time, run around, take the kids, on the Appalachian Trail on Father's Day, walk in for 4 days. That's really good for a marriage, not for family. So we have this idea going, but it's not really likely.
But come on. What about the whole psychological principle that says that if you behave a certain way, your mind can't take the dissonance between your thoughts and your actions? So if you behave like you're in love with your spouse, your feelings will follow.
And the other thing is, how does that work exactly?
It's true. There is
we have a psychologist. Absolutely. So Contessa and I have been married for 20 years. We actually hate each other. Let's say. I wish. She's married, by the way. But let's say I get to live my dream, and I'm married to Contessa Brewer.
All she's simply saying is, you have to find the love in the marriage. You have to find a reason to stay in love, to fall in love all over again. And it happens in the lifetime of a marriage. I've been married for 20 years. We've had a lot of peaks and valleys.
Hang on a second. I think that what's the phrase, Sandra? Baloney?
Baloney. And I think it's something that we say, and I've been on a fair amount of these shows, and there's a psychologist and a sociologist, and everyone's saying, it's a life partnership, it's a dream. I think when we look at Sanford and look at those emails
first of all, I think you're personalizing this. You've been married for 20 years. You've been married for 20 years. It didn't work out for you. I think perhaps you're maybe bitter about this. I don't want to get personal, but at the end of the day, there are people who've been married for 20 years.
Sure.
And you know
I know
what?
people that have been married for 40 years.
And they haven't had a great time. They haven't had a great time, but they try to make it work. Marriage works for some people, and it doesn't work for others. I wouldn't advocate marriage for everybody.
Let me say this to you. Her personal experience is her personal experience. I agree with her. I also understand where you're coming from in terms of your marriage. We're talking about what today's world is, and let's be real about something.
Did a shrink just call the other guy? Did you call her bitter?
Yes, he did.
I believe she is bitter because I've been reading a lot of the things that she's putting out there.
I'm just saying.
We don't want to lose control of the meeting. We don't want to lose control of it.
It's really simple here. Marriage works for some people. It doesn't work for others.
Sandra, go ahead. Sandra, go ahead, and then I'm coming back to you, Steve.
About 1 in 2 it doesn't work for, and more divorces initiated by women. And Americans, marry and divorce faster than anywhere on the globe. If you compare us to Western countries, a church-going, American is more likely to divorce than a secular.
All right, can I chime in?
In America, we have such an optimism about marriage, and half of them break up.
I've listened to everybody. Let me chime in about something. Let's just be real about something. Can we finally do this?
Please.
Listen, I believe in marriage. I expect to be married someday or whatever.
Likewise.
I've been single. I have loved the single life. Let me explain to you how hard it is. It is very, very difficult. The prospect of being married, looking at one person and saying for the rest of my life, baby, it's all about you. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'll let you speak. Let me finish. What I'm saying is it is an extremely difficult proposition because what you are doing is committing emotionally to a feeling that is only present, but you cannot guarantee, nor can you expect that it is something that's going to be everlasting. You walk out and either the temptation. Think about Sanford for a second here. This is a man that was married with 4 kids. He went on national television, y'all, and said, I have found my soulmate. And he wasn't talking about his wife. Hold on, wait. You know what that says? You know what that says? That doesn't just speak to what she made him feel. It speaks to what he wasn't feeling at home. That is very difficult, but it's a reality.
Stephen, it speaks to mental instability. First of all, if you're breaking up with your wife or you've been caught cheating, you don't go and say, okay, let's try to work it out. By the way, the sex I had was great and this person was my soulmate.
Shut
the hell on up.
That's a different conversation. That's a different conversation.
But there's a question. What I'm saying is we all know that it's a mental breakdown.
Hold on, Sandra, I'm coming to you.
We know that it's a mental breakdown, but the reality is that something transpired prior to that mental breakdown, and usually it's the unhappiness. I know athletes, I know entertainers who have sat in their hotel rooms on the road and cried because they knew they had to go home. That is not a joke.
Well,
that is reality.
Hold on. You guys hold on 1 second. I want to get Sandra in here. You said something, Sandra. Hey, hold on. Sandra, you said it's unnatural. What did you mean?
Well, I think that this commitment to long-term marriage, I mean, it is like the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus. It is something that really has not been around. If you look back at the centuries of how people did it, it's like long-term marriage must be stayed until you die. You get married at 25, please be married until you're 85. Why we have this notion that this is necessarily a good thing and an end-all to everything for people to stay in these marriages for 60 years, given that you change every 7 years, every 15, every 20. I mean, we do want stability for our children. We don't want a round robin of people coming in and out. But, by a lot, it's kind of like for a 2-parent household, that's a good, stable thing for children if that's happy. A single-parent household can be just as stable by many indicators, truancy in school and grades, etc.
It was pretty stable.
It can be marked. So I think that why are we committed to this idea like Santa Claus and like the Tooth Fairy is kind of the
Sandra, can we have someone get the word in edgewise for heaven's sake?
Hold on.
You're trying to convince yourself?
I was a marriage skeptic. I got married. I'm perfectly happy. But what you're suggesting is that perhaps marriage should be like a job contract. You get married for 5 years. If you're enjoying it, then you're going to work really hard to have it renewed at the end of the 5 years. If you hate it, then you can move on and find a new job.
Dylan, very quickly, why is it that men in the 50s, 60s, and 70s live longer? Why do they live longer when they're in marriages? We know that. They live longer.
Men
the women don't tend to live as long.
Good marriages.
Women don't tend to live as long.
Bad marriages.
But the men do.
Good marriages is yes.
But
Sandra, thank you
there.
so much. I knew this was going to be a little bit out of hand. It was, but many good
Like
points were
marriage.
made, like marriage.
Well, she's acting like nobody gets a point. The bottom line, this comes down to this. If you're happy, you're happy. If you're not happy, you're a miserable person, and you're going to try to get out of the situation
And
any way
get
you
out.
can. Sometimes it's a divorce. Sometimes it's an adulterous affair. Sometimes it's just misery, and in some other cases, it's suicide. It just is what it is.
Some people would say marriage is suicide.
A. Smith on marriage. Thank you very much, Jeff Gardere.
All right.
Contessa, Sandra, fantastic. Thank you so
And they
much.
wonder why I'm scared.
Yeah, they wonder.